We wish we were a Fortune 500 to spend all of that without knowing where we are going to spend it on. Now let me ask you another question. How often have we seen brands who are winning in their fields? Absolutely winning in the fields, very happy with what they are doing and killing it, of course. And suddenly, one fine day, the 9th or the 10th player or an absolutely new guy in that field comes in and kills the first one. Known examples, I'll talk through a few, but it happens. A lot of times, absolutely new guys come from that field. They completely innovate, they start from scratch. They are frugal, they don't have huge branding budgets, but they just kill it. They do amazingly well, and then they get the first, second, third, and the fourth and the fifth player thinking, oops, what did we miss? How come this newcomer came and shook us off? And I think the answer to that lies in one word. The answer to that lies in when we are building businesses, when we are starting businesses, when we are building businesses, how much clarity do we have on what we are there for? The key word being clarity. And when we say what brings clarity, and we've been hearing in a bunch of sessions today, including Mr. Ambi Parmeshwaran's session in the last one, how many of us really get into what is it that we are getting into this business for? What is that one problem that we are solving? What is that one consumer issue that we are coming to resolve? And with that answer, we would be able to find out what is going to be our relevance, what is going to be my business's relevance to the product or to the service that I bring in for the consumer. Because with relevance, at least you get noticed. When you bring in when you come in trying to solve a problem, you get noticed. But is that enough? Is getting noticed enough? No. You want to be re-noticed because first time everybody is going to pick you up. Let's give it a shot. But the second time somebody will pick you up only if they trust you. Only if they trust the product. And I think that's the second biggest part of the job that we have to do as we creating businesses. So one is relevance and the second is trust. And if we are able to solve for these two, we win what I call as the pricing power. You are relevant, you're solving a real problem, and the problem, by the way, can be solved in many ways. It always doesn't have to be a problem that you're solving. It can also be, I would say, a vitamin. It doesn't have to necessarily be a painkiller, but it can also be a booster, a vitamin to our lives. Right? And with that also you can build relevance. But the way you bring this relevance to life, again and again and again and again with consistency, is what builds trust. And once you have the trust and relevance built in, you will have the power to charge what you want to charge. And I will talk about all of this to you in the form of a few stories of what I have seen in my experience in the last 20 years in Maersk, in Uber, and in LVMH. So let's get started. How many times, I'm guessing most of you are from Nagpur, but this is a picture from a taxi in Mumbai. It's a very common experience when you see a taxi standing like this, you go, Bhaiya khali hai, chalenge? What will Bhaiya say? Nahi, khali nahi hai. Of course, khali nahi hai. Bhaiya, don't even know is there a ghost sitting there or what are you gonna get busy out of, but hum to khali nahi hai. So because you've seen it enough number of times, right? And agar Bhaiya khali hai bhi, and even if you sit in that car, well, half the time you don't know where Bhaiya is taking you, so your Google map is on. Right? Chalo, Bhaiya is taking you to the right place. Let's say he took a couple of detours. Chalo, I'll pay you 100 rupees extra. Okay? Because, chalo, if a good case scenario like Mumbai, at least the meter is on. In some cities, there's no meter also. Right? So at least I pay what's on the meter, even if it's 100 rupees more because of those 2 detours. Shall I pay you 100 rupees more? Bhaiya, can I give you 500 bucks? Change nahi hai, madam. Aap pura hi 500 chhod do. A lot of us, let's be real, if in Mumbai we have faced it, and then Nagpur, all of us have two-wheelers, so I guess you guys are a lot more independent, but at least in my times as a kid here, we had two-wheelers, now four-wheelers, but in Mumbai, this is the problem. So who came to rescue? Thank you. Let's say Uber, no Ola, huh? My shares are still there. So Uber came to rescue. And how did Uber do that? Well, they found a relevant pain point. All of this we were facing, not just in Bombay, we were facing this in different versions in different other cities as well. And they said, well, let's solve this pain point and do it in a way that trust is built. And how did Uber build trust? Uber built trust on the back of transparency through an app. Uber built trust on the back of predictability and reliability, because you knew your car was moving. If it's not moving, you will torture your driver by calling him 4 times. Bhaiya, aap aa rahe hain kya? So that. Uber built transparency in fares. Uber built transparency by reliability, that at least for a 350 rupee ride, you're paying 350. You're not paying 500 because you had credit cards to begin with, and nowadays, thank you to UPI or Google Pays of the world, you pay only as much as you need to pay. Even if it's 23 bucks, you pay 23 bucks. So all of that helped in building an experience and an economy or an ecosystem of trust. Now, a lot of us still complain, and rightfully so. They charge too much. Surge pricing we hate. But what Uber did was, of course, they did burn a lot of private equity money. In the initial days, there was a lot of money burned. There were a lot of discounts given, incentives to the drivers, 500 rupees coupons to 50 rupee coupons, Mercedes coming to pick you up, everything they did for the first 4 years. But interestingly, in that first 4 years of investment, they changed our habits. They spoiled us. Most times now in Bombay, even if I can go somewhere by driving my own car, I will think parking lot hai ki nahi? Is there a valet service available? And the answer of that, if it's no, Uber is there. Forget about the Kali Pili anymore. Right? And that's how Uber has spoiled us completely in that process of building relevance, building trust, and building the pricing power over the years. Nowadays, customers are spoiled, and the barrier to exit and try something else is absolutely massive. That was the story of Uber. Comes the story of Maersk Line. This was actually my first company. I joined Maersk Line, which is, at that point of time, was the world's largest shipping line based out of Denmark. I joined them as the global management trainee, spent 4 years outside India, came back with them, and then worked with them for another 3 years. And actually in those 7.5 years, the story of Maersk changed. And I saw it changing in front of my eyes. And how? So as you can see, Maersk Line has ships. Some of the world's largest ships at that point of time were owned by Maersk. They had some 450, 500 ships in those days. And we were a container freight company. We used to call ourselves, I think, the world's largest container company, freight company. What did that mean? That meant that logistics being the industry it is in, a lot of you in your own manufacturing and industry work are using supply chain and probably using Maersk as well, was an extremely competitive industry, right? So Maersk will say, Europe, Mumbai trade route X price. MSC will say, okay, I'll give you 3% discount. CMS EGM will come and say 5% discount, and it was a discount story. You're saying, yes, I'm guessing you've used that service and you've gone through it. Because it's just a container that they were selling, so it's fair. You are a commodity, it's fair to negotiate, it's fair to ask for discounts, and whoever gave the lowest price for business owners, it makes sense, I'll go with the lowest price, why will I give you premium? Some people did pay premium because Maersk also used to be the most reliable platform, right? And their on-time delivery was quite on the point. But that was not a differentiator that could take them a long way. But what changed was how Maersk changed the game from being a container freight company to an integrated logistics provider. And I'll tell you about one of my consumers where I put this into action. So this is one of the largest steel giants of India who had a plant in a tiny city, no, not even a city, a tiny, almost a village place called Jajpur. How many of you have heard of Jajpur? Yes. Where is it? Orissa, yes. So this is at the, yeah, it's not exactly part of it, but it's Orissa. So, and Jajpur is so tiny, there's no hotel to stay. Okay, matlab, there is one Suryansh hotel. If you're lucky, you'll get a room. Otherwise, you wouldn't. So I got assigned that customer. I was like, manage them for 3 years. I am not naming the client. So manage the client for 3 years. So first client management is Ipsita. We are taking Masline off our logistics ecosystem. You guys are charging too much premium. Right? We have CMA coming and visiting us. We have MSc coming and visiting us. They are ready to give us business at much lower rates. It's like, boss. This is me after coming back from my ISB MBA. By the way, we heard about BATNA in the previous, that's what I put into use. And I would be like, sir, aise kaise? We have been serving you for so long. We can't just play the pricing game. Then sitting there, and this was a plant which had absolutely nothing, right? Like I would spend 4-5 days of my week there. And there were no washrooms also. So I would actually sit down in one of the container loading and unloading places. And I noticed that they are bringing in almost 500 to 600 containers every day of raw material. They came in, they went out after dumping the raw material. And another 500 to 600 containers would go out every day with fresh coils and pipes and everything that they were doing. And I realized, ye hai my mauka. This is the time when I can really stop negotiating on the rate. And I said, sir, I will cut down your logistics cost. I will not let you send your empty container back. So the container that brings your raw material in will be the same container that will take your coil out. So that way, you reduce your entire transportation cost by one way. At least the transportation cost from Jajpur to Vizag. He seemed interested and I figured ki if I get inside this line, there is some light at the end of this day. I will stop negotiating on rate. And he agreed. Like, okay, do it for a month. See what you can do. Will you be able to supply the right number of containers at the right time? My supply chain should not get delayed and all of that. Multiple caveats put in. But it was a no-brainer. You cannot spend so much money moving khali containers. Right? So that started. And then came in more business in the form ki Ipsita, you guys do your lashing and choking as well, which is basically tying the container, tying the coil inside the container. And when you can imagine when you're putting in 20 tons of a coil inside a container, the container is bound to get damaged. So day in and day out, insurance guys would call saying that you guys have way too much damage rates, which is where the customer realized we need to really upgrade ourselves. So I got the second chance. So first, transportation fix, now lashing and choking. What you were spending 7,000 rupees for, I got them to spend 14,000 because the damages that they were paying for was much higher. And that was my way to integrate their entire logistics. So, did they really start then going back to negotiating on the freight rates? No. They had no option to. Because the value that they were getting out of this entire integrated supply chain was so much more higher than the 2% or the 3% rebate MSc or a CMA was giving them. And that also gave Maersk the pricing power it needed to keep a client of that stature who's doing 600 containers with you every day at their own terms. Now let me move to the third one. Favorite brand of a lot of people, LVMH. You have Louis Vuitton pictures out there. If I may ask you, what does LVMH or Louis Vuitton for that matter sell? Fair. Any other words? Anything else? Luxury products, prestige. Yeah. Price? Style. Okay.
Aspiration.
Fair. A lot of words that kind of converge onto the same point. LVMH sells a milestone that says, I have arrived. It doesn't sell a leather product. It doesn't sell a clothing. It doesn't sell a canvas product or a watch or anything. It says, look at me, I've arrived, I've done it in life.
What is the last sentence?
I've done it in life. Like, this is it. They have taught us to craft dreams. They have taught us what aspirations are. And they have found out that that was that little moment of them creating relevance in a society which is otherwise quite crowded. To an extent that in Japan, and you might know this already, in Japan, when young girls start working at the age of 20, 21, guess what is their first salary spent on? An LV bag. That's the kind of aspiration that LVMH as a house and a bunch of their brands, whether it's Louis Vuitton or Dior or Fendi, have created amongst youngsters today. But they have done that also on the back of a lot of trust. Trust on what? The product quality, the craftsmanship. Yes. But have you ever, we always say when we're going to buy a bag or if you want to buy a bag, it's बहुत expensive hai, right? But if you really want it, we'll still pay the price and buy it. But we don't regret it later, saying that, oops, I bought it yesterday, aaj to is pe sale lagi hai. Because LV never goes on sale. There will not be a single day, a single hour, a single minute or a single second that LV will go on sale. And that is the confidence that the brand has on itself. And that is the confidence and the trust that the consumers get on the brand, saying that if I'm buying it now, I don't have to regret later, because of course the product quality and everything unquestionable. But I won't regret later saying, oops, I bought it at the wrong time. I should have bought it on sale because there's no sale happening. And with that comes LV's pricing power. Now, if I have to bring it all in with a few other examples, right? Examples which are much closer home, examples which are something that I guess some of us use on a day-to-day basis. How many of us use Zerodha? Oh, good number. If I may ask, what is that one reason that you started using Zerodha?
Ease.
Ease.
Gives you a lot of control.
Control.
Pioneers in the broking.
Okay.
And less brokerage.
Less brokerage.
Very simple, clear information. Even a layman can.
User friendly. It's very user friendly.
Exactly. So all of these are correct answers. Because what happened before Zerodha, and I'm by the way not a Banya, I'm a Bengali, so savings is not in my DNA. Till of course apps and stuff came like this, and they were like, force, I'm helping you save, at least now start saving, right? So yes, you can laugh. So going to all the brokerage houses, the paperwork used to be so long. That was one of the biggest barrier to entry, कि कौन करेगा save या खर्चा ही कर लो. Then even if the paperwork was done after a point of time, who's gonna like keep trading or find out? That entire process of buying and selling was a nightmare. And third, I didn't know much about it. Right? I had no idea about equity market at all. Right? Who's gonna educate me? If I ask my dad, he will say, put everything into real estate. And Sarvesh knows this. Right? So clearly that was not an answer for me. But what Zerodha has done for people is they brought in a platform, absolutely transparent. They brought in a platform which was very reliable in the form of the click platform, the kite platform that they use. They moved from a percentage commission to a flat fee, and which gave a lot of confidence to new users like me. But I think what I found most interesting about them is they started educating consumers through varsity. Exactly. And that is where I felt where the trust really started building. Because you are not trying to do something out of not educating people out of non-transparency, but you're actually educating your consumer. And when you know you are getting educated by someone, automatically your trust towards your guru goes up. And that was literally, I think, their master stroke, to be able to build trust in an ecosystem, which otherwise in an online platform can be very wishy-washy to get. So they, going back to our initial words, they found a gap, they found their relevance, they built trust, and then they were, by the way, never there is a discount opportunity with Zerodha. There are brokerage houses that would say zero or whatever, discount or zero brokerage fee, but Zerodha would never do that. Very similarly, so where you saw relevance, trust, and pricing power come in Zerodha, you see that again, our day-to-day life, Amazon. And I think it's Amazon, while I've just put that one name out there, nowadays there's a long list. Right? You have your Blinkit of 10 minutes, your whatever, Big Basket, or name it. We all have our own Zepto. We all have our own go-to apps. There was a time we used to do our Sunday shopping in a D-Mart or a Godrej or whichever, More or Reliance Mart and stuff like that. I don't remember myself anymore. Have I been to a departmental store after COVID? I haven't. COVID. Right? And the reason I'm using COVID as a timeline is because it was a great time to build habit. Right? Because you are bound at home. There was a certain ecosystem that forced you to just stay online and you never went back offline. So with Amazon, let's use Amazon as an example. Okay, delivery, nowadays you have Amazon now as well. But the level of trust is so high is also because of the features that they give us. When you have to return something, no questions asked. Yeah, you'll fill in a few checkboxes in that return wala thing, but that's pretty much it. After that, they'll not ask you a thing. If you have to get a refund, no questions asked, right? You can trust their delivery timelines, it works, trust has been built. Today, to get off Amazon, will I go to Flipkart? Chances are low. Will I go back to offline ever? No. I think I've just Uber spoiled me, Amazon has spoiled me as well. I think sitting on my couch, I can get at 11 p.m. at night. If my son wants beetroot chips for tomorrow's 7 a.m. tiffin, I will order at 7 or 11 p.m. I'm ordering beetroot chips and it's coming in 10 minutes, right? Whether again, Blinkit, Zepto and so on. So these industries have all, did you show me 10 minutes? Okay, thank you. Okay, let's go to the last one. I guess all of us have been using fans in our life, unlike France, jahan pe agar if it's 40 degrees, there are no fans to be used. Yes, there are no fans to be used in France. So if you are stuck in one of those heat waves, you are literally stuck and sweating inside your office and your home. But in India, we have fans and we have had it for as many years as we remember. Crompton, Usha, blah, 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 the name goes on. And this is an example of one of those players that came in an extremely crowded category from nowhere and found relevance and built trust and built pricing power to charge 20% extra. How? Yes, 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 yes. Innovation, design, BLDC, the theory and the engineering behind it. So what they came up with was a new technology which used to exist in the world, but it was put into fans. Brushless, direct current. And when they did that, what was the output to a consumer? मतलब BLDC बोलेंगे तो consumer को तो कुछ नहीं समझेगा, right? When somebody told me BLDC, I was like, what is it? For me, it meant saving electricity. What a regular fan would take 70-80 watts, it would take half of that at times. It would mean that if there's a voltage fluctuation, which is that fine audio? Yeah. When there's a voltage fluctuation happening, generally your speed would also fluctuate. With Atomberg, it would not fluctuate. India, there is the power cuts that meant a lot of houses ran on inverters. That means again your speed would go down, RPM would go down. Atomberg said no, with my fans, inverter chalu rahega, speed nahi kam hoga. But guess on the top of all of this, I will give you a remote control. You do not have to get up from your couch to change the speed. And for all of this put together, I will charge you 20% extra. Now, Indians, as we have heard throughout the day, are extremely value conscious. Mind you, I'm not saying price conscious. Indians are not price conscious. Indians will pay you if you show them that there is a value. And how did Atomberg show that? Atomberg showed that purely on the basis of math. Your wattage went down, your electricity consumption went down. That was able to give you a saving of more than 20%, but I am going to only charge you 20% premium. And there you go, hit it off the park. Out of nowhere, now people are saying, I don't want Crompton, I want Atomberg, plus I like the design. And with all these examples, I believe these are examples for us to see and learn from. But these are examples also that lead the path for us to think about our own businesses when we try to grow with frugal budgets. When we are not the loudest, when we do not have the biggest marketing budgets, when we do not have the biggest discounts to give. And by the way, discounts is one thing which I think is the biggest killer of trust when it comes to pricing. When I have all of this, how do I grow my business? Of course, find that spot where you build your relevance. Find that space on what exact problem you are solving. And do that in a way where you are actually able to connect to a consumer. Secondly, like I mentioned, build the trust. Discounting, just like discounting kills the trust, a poor quality product kills the trust, a poor service kills the trust, and just not being able to consistently deliver what you had initially promised the consumer kills trust, amongst many other things. But if you are able to actually build your relevance and trust over a period of time, not only, like I said, did you become a brand that they picked up for one time, but you actually become a brand of choice that they continue to pick up the second, third, and the fourth time. And with that, you get the pricing power of what value your brand or your product or your service actually brings to the customer or the consumer. So with that, I would leave one brand that we all know of for you to think about. So I'm not going to speak about it. This is homework. Think about it on how Apple built relevance in a space which was dominated by Nokia, BlackBerry, and a few others. But they came in. They built trust. And they built pricing power in a very, very unique way. Can somebody say what is that unique way of their pricing power?
Ecosystem.
Yeah, there you are. The ecosystem. Today, if I have to buy an Apple phone, 1.5 lakhs almost, and somebody tells me that I'll give you 10 lakh rupees, but don't buy an Apple phone, I'll say I don't want your 10 lakh rupees. Mujhe mera Apple phone chahiye because my world revolves around Apple products. And that is the pricing power on the back of ecosystem. And all of this is possible if we go into the detail of the problem we are solving, how we are solving in a non-compromising, unapologetic way, and doing that with a lot of courage, because holding your pricing power takes courage, takes time. But if you hold that onto that, you are building a business which is sustainable, which is for the long run, and which over a period of time starts to give you the kind of output you need out of it. So with that, I would come to an end. Thank you so much.
Thank you for such an insightful session. We'll all take away that we need to focus on trust and building value and not just on the price. So I'll take the liberty of asking the first question.
Let's go. Physics question mat poochna.
This is a bit personal. How do you do it? I mean, how do you manage life, work, you are a mother, you are career oriented, doing all of this, you have managed to lead one of the top luxury brands in the world. How do you do it?
Like everybody else here does it. But I think, of course, I am very, very lucky and privileged to have a family that is super supportive, to an extent that if my son sees me at home at 5 p.m. any day, he's like, why are you at home? he wants me out. But I think for me, I think two things. Whenever I get into a room or whenever I get into a task or something that I have to lead and deliver, there is no looking back. And I think that's something that has been instilled from childhood, that, thank you, that if you committed to something, you deliver it with excellence. And that excellence also brings in a lot of responsibility and accountability to lead the room. And the second one is, I think it's more personal for me because I'm very happy to see a lot of women in this room, which is not the case in a lot of rooms that I walk into. But it is also the feeling that I think if we are given that stage, we need to do justice to that stage, because very few of us get that opportunity. And I think it is our responsibility when we get that stage that we continue to inspire, motivate, and hopefully be a role model to anyone who is trying to get into a stage that they want to aspire for. So yeah, it's a mix of a lot of support system plus responsibility and the will to excel.
I don't need the mic. Thank you so much, Ipsita, for the wonderful session. It's just an extension to what he asked. Being excellent and best at whatever you take up has been your nature, or you have developed it as a skill over a period of time?
I would say it's both, right? I think the first one, it's been a part of the value system from the time I was a kid. So my grandmom, she was very, very close to me, and she had 3 daughters, my mom and 2 of her sisters, and 3 sons. So there were 6 siblings. And when I was a very little kid, my grandmom used to tell me stories about how she would make her 3 daughters study and make sure they're finishing their homework and excelling in studies. Because her motto was, my sons can ride a rickshaw and earn money, but my daughters need to have a desk job to earn money. Need to have a desk job to earn money. So that was something that I've heard from her from a very early stage, which made me kind of really value the academic system, the need to excel, to just go out there. I think that was one. And I think the second one was, so while we say it's important to fail to succeed, I also think it's important to succeed to succeed. Right? So when you get the taste of success once, you want it second time, and then when you get it the second time, you want it the third time. And
First ranker always wants to maintain that rank.
Exactly. So one is a value system, and the second one is you set your own benchmark, you can't fall back on it.
Great.
Okay, next question.
What are thoughts and questions too? All questions are very personal to us.
मैडम, जैसे कम बजट में कंपनी को सक्सेस करना हमारे जैसे साधारण लोगों के लिए बड़ा डिफिकल्ट है। जो एग्जांपल्स आपने जैसे लिए हैं, या जैसे हम जोमेटो, ओला, उबर, पोर्टर, जीरोधा, ऐसे ये जितनी भी कंपनीज का हम सुनते हैं, सब कैश बर्निंग कंपनीज हैं। ये पहले आदत लगाती हैं, फिर 5 साल बाद ये फिर वो अर्न करती हैं। तो एक नॉर्मल बिजनेस वाला ऐसे कैसे कम बजट में काम करेगा?
I think that's a very fair question, right? But I think the answer lies in a mix of both. If you look at Zerodha, and if I'm not wrong, they were bootstrapped all through. They did not raise funds. उन्होंने कोई VC fund नहीं लिया, कोई PE fund नहीं लिया. उन्होंने sustainable company day 0 से बनाया. But having said that, it's fair. Did all companies do that the same way? Uber clearly didn't. Uber burnt a lot of PE money till they started getting the return on that money. But the answer lies in between the two, depending upon the product and the service is what I believe that you are providing. One, you will either have to be ready to burn cash to a certain extent till the time you are able to get the money back. Or of course you raise funds. But I think what makes it easier, if it does at all, is the ability to build a product or a service in a way that is differentiated enough with a quality that is so good that nobody can say no to. And that comes in again from the fact that you'll have to have a product and a service that is so relevant. And we heard it from on the Plasto conversation yesterday, that Plasto hai to warranty hai, and I've been seeing that everywhere since I've heard that speech from last evening. The fact that when you build trust in the process, and I think if those two are the key ingredients, you'll have the only third ingredient you need in the process is the time it requires for both of them to be fully leveraged. But sorry, I know I don't have a straight answer saying कि बिना इसका और कुछ नहीं चाहिए इससे हो जाएगा. But I guess a large part of that is also the conviction on what you want to do and stick to it with a lot of courage.
Question?
Sir has been asking very tough questions in every session.
Ma'am, does it therefore mean that we should be able to identify at least one feature of our offering so that advantage and benefit then gets highlighted? Does it that?
I think so. I would like to believe so. There has to be one differentiator that makes you say why I am better than the other. Right? And that differentiator has to be strong enough, and you have to stick, I believe the brand and the service or the company has to stick to that differentiator with so much conviction, knowing that it is also relevant. Aisa nahi ki I'm trying to create a wing out of something when the customer wants something else. But when you know that there is a relevant product and there's a relevant gap, and you're coming in with one differentiated or a value-added service to it, you have to stick to it, and I believe that works.
So that shows the advantage and the benefit of it.
Exactly. And I'll give you one example, right? Like going back to what you also asked, right? It becomes difficult at times, and tying up to what you said, right? There was a time in LVMH, and we think that LVMH, your brand is there, so it will sell, right? Because you're LVMH. And there was a time, again, I'll not name the customer, but it is one of the India's largest hotel chains, 5-star hotel chains, right? And 5-star hotel chains obviously would require a lot of Moet Hennessy products, which includes a lot of champagnes. And interestingly, MH is, I think, world's now 75% of the world champagne share is with MH. So that means most hotels around the world cannot function if they do not have a champagne from MH. So this hotel chain said that we will only sell your champagnes if you give it to us with a certain discount, right? Certain discount, right? And fairly so, the ask was that because many other brands do it and they're used to it. And we said, well, we are 70-75% market share owner of champagne. But having said that, we also have limited quantities. It's not a product that we just manufacture and put in a bottle here. Region mein itne hi bottles bante saal mein, so I cannot discount that little product that I make. He stood by, I want discount, I stood by, I will not give you discount. We did not do business for 3 years together. 3 years, India's largest hotel chain was not buying champagne from MH. How long will you stay? Yes, thankfully I had the opportunity to have other products in my and keep my P&L going. But that was the conviction. If my product is so good, I will not discount it. You will come to me at some point of time, and he did come back after those 3 years, said, list it. Put it in your annual plan and put the price you need and list it. But it requires time. You will and I know that liberty doesn't exist with everyone.
Yeah. So, ma'am, the examples you gave.
Oh.
The examples you gave, like Atomberg and Zerodha and LV. So LV example looks like more of a psychological. Like as you say, like they decided to not have the sales and to show it like I have arrived or something like that. So the LV company itself looks like they are sitting on the more of a psychological impact than anything else. That's what I am saying. Is it the right analysis, or you can throw more on it on that?
I would not necessarily call it psychological. But I would definitely say that they have identified a gap that exists in human psychology, or an aspiration that exists in human psychology, where everybody wants to go up. Everybody wants growth. And they found that as a space they can productize. So if they did not have a product like a bag, they will have a watch. They don't have a watch, they will have a moment to celebrate with a bottle of Moet and Chandon. But with all the products that they have, which they have leveraged very beautifully through a spectrum of about 70 odd brands, every product screams only one thing. Your dreams are fulfilled, and when they are, I am here.
So positioning is always premium only.
It's a luxury company. So yes.
So my question is, Atomberg made the BLDC fan. It was fine until someone copied it, and then now the market is flooded with BLDC fans. So how, as a company, I stay ahead of my competition with every feature? Because once I've created a wow, after sometimes that wow would be the basic need for all the consumers.
Yeah.
Then again creating another wow. How do I keep on doing it?
I think the sweet spot there is around how you are continuing to service your customers. आप एक बार तो फैन खरीदोगे, आप वारंटी भी दे दोगे, but tomorrow if I have a problem, is there a place I can go back to? The ability to operate day in and day out with consistency builds trust over a period of time. Yes, will they move from whatever 8% market share to a 25% market share? Maybe not. Was that their ambition? Probably not as well. But they have created the dent on the back of not just technology but design as well. And they have been able to educate the entire retail ecosystem, to educate their customers as well, and they've been able to service them in and out, which is going to be the proof of the pudding. If they continue to do that, maybe slow and steady, they will be able to continue to grab more market share in a space which is now again crowded because everybody else has copied them.
That's what he said. Copying is very easy now.
Which happens across. I think what I'm saying is everybody can copy you. Right? It's the operational experience that you are giving over a period of time that sets you aside. Product can always be copied, but it's the experience that is not necessarily copyable. It's your operational efficiency and the processes that you put in are not necessarily copyable. So if you look at a lot of organizations, when in the most, and a bunch of you are from the FMCG ecosystem as well, right? What sets HUL aside versus many other smaller brands that are coming in today to completely disrupt the ecosystem? Their operational efficiency, their distribution ecosystem. And they've held it so tightly and they have delivered on it again and again and again and again over years, over decades, that makes it hard for new players to come and shake them up. Right? So consistency of delivery with experience, with processes that bring in efficiencies for your internal system, but also experience for your consumers, I believe will continue to be a lever that can continue to differentiate yourself.
Any other question?
Actually, if I may ask a question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Grill mat karna, Anish.
Simple question. I'm just going to take ahead what you were asking, that you showed the startups we are cash burning. And ground reality is that it's sometimes difficult to sustain also. So, just your opinion on this. Should we focus to become EBITDA or operating profit positive, or we should first start building trust relevance and the later thing follows?
See, I think it depends, right? I don't think there is one correct answer, because in today's date, I don't think scale is everything. Similar to, I don't think even budget is a moat anymore, right? But having said that, should you run a business in an unsustainable way? I am a firm believer of that as a no. Right? Because there has to be a line of sight to what makes a business sustainable. Because, see, funds can come in, flush you, and as we started the session with, how many of us want more funds, but how do we use it, is a question that we need to spend more time on. But I also think funds actually bring in mediocrity. If you are smart, you do not need as much funds. Funds make you lazy, funds help you buy the room. right? You can give free iPhones to everyone. Of course, you will have the whole room as your consumer. But the day you want this entire room to pay for it, I may have just 2% of them as the consumer, right? So it's with funds, it's easy to buy. But over a period of time, you need sustainable business. And I think the roots of that needs to start from scratch.
Okay, so, we have a question.
Yeah, I just want, it's a personal question again. I would just want to know your experience after your ISB stage. Like how has work changed and how did it help you in your professional?
How ISB helped me?
Yeah.
But a very deep question.
I mean, for people who are wanting to continue their education, continuing their education.
So the reason for me to do ISB was basically I wanted a ticket back to India. Right? So it was not necessarily to sit in a classroom and study because I ran away from physics because मुझसे नहीं पढ़ाई हो रही थी और. And when I went back to ISB, I realized कि पढ़ाई करनी है. But I think what I enjoyed the most and what I cherished the most is the network that it gave. Right? The 400 odd people that I did my B school with is probably the group that is my first point of contact today if I need any help in running my business. But having said that, I have over a period of time realized that there is a lot of value in classroom teaching as well. And I was telling this to Sarvesh, I was actually going to start my exec MBA last Sunday, which I now deferred to September because I didn't get time to study. But because they required me to do some 22 case studies and some 80 hours of finance work, and I was like, I need time to prep for it. But I believe that a classroom setting where you have peers and brains from very different walks of life, very different industries, diverse thought process, it gets you to think also differently, right? Which an industry doesn't always gives you exposure to. So yes, it is not always for the academic knowledge, but it's also about what you hear from people around you and learn from them.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Ipsita, for such a wonderful session. So we are running out of time now, so I can't take that.
Just want to add
Okay, sir.
Okay.
एमपी की जो परसेस और आर्टिकल्स है मेरी कंपनी है दिल्ली में हम थाउजेंड्स ऑफ परसेस हर साल जलाते हैं
हाँ कहाँ से आता है
अच्छा
अच्छा ओके हाँ
क्योंकि सेल में तो आप बेचते हैं
हाँ तो आप जला देते हैं
सिक्योरिटी पेरिस से आती है
Okay. Is there any closing remarks? Anything you'd like to add to say to all the ladies which are here and who aspire to do something?
No, I think too, that goes for everyone out here. It's my pleasure to be here. And it's always great to have different minds asking different questions, sharing different thoughts, and it gets the mind working a lot more than what it happens in the work. So thank you for the opportunity for having me here, Sarvesh, and thank you all for being an amazing audience.
Thank you. I request I know going to.
Hey. मतलब अब खींचेगा Thank you.